All right, so let's start. So today we'll study block ciphers. It's kind of symmetric encryption. Okay, the contents I have taken largely from this course CS161 at University of California, Berkeley. This excellent material is available there. So you can, and they have written their own book for the course, and please read the book and see the presentation. Okay, it's lovely. Just whatever topics they have covered, they have done it very well, and there's not much reading also required. When just read through those 8 or 10 pages, you understand the lecture. Okay, all right. Additional reference is by this another good book by Christopher Parr, will focus only on cryptography. So if you really want to get into details of cryptography, then read this book. Okay, so just before we start today's lecture, let's see where we are in the course, because we are almost reaching mid-semester. And we are lagging right now by at least 3 lectures, So I want to take about 40 lectures, rather 42 lectures I have planned. And and I think 2 or 3 holidays came in between, so I lost those days, So we will require a few more classes, additional classes to cover the course. So far we have covered security principles. We looked at all these principles like threat model, TCB, defense in depth, etc. Then we have see how program converts into process. Okay, when program is basically something that doesn't have life. It's just you write it, is there as a file in the hard disk, right? When you bring life to this program, you load it into memory. OS loads it to memory and creates various section in runtime. At runtime in that memory, like stack, heap, etc., right? So we have seen that concept because that's important to understand the next thing that we studied. There's call stack and buffer overflow vulnerability. Now, I'm sure you would have understood it, but you need to practice around it. So you will get first assignment very soon, and you can start working on assignments. Okay, then we looked into authentication methods. We looked at password salts, password hacking. Then we look at various authentication mechanisms. Okay, then we moved on to access control, we looked at Linux-based and access control, and we have looked at some special features like set UID and etc. And then we also familiarize ourselves with environment variables, because these two features, if you're running Linux program, especially in Linux, then set UID can cause a lot of problem in security if you're not attentive about it. Okay, and then environment variables, of course, can be there in any OS. And then, so these are default variables, environment variables available, which we should be aware of. Then we moved on to cryptography, and then we studied in brief about symmetric encryption. Okay. Someone's machine is not mute. Can you please mute it? I'm getting some. Okay. All right. So this is what we will study now in the remaining part of the course, right? Once we complete symmetric encryption, which will take one more class, and then we'll move on to cryptographic hash function. We'll look at asymmetric encryption, which is most popular nowadays and very complex, right? It is excellent algorithm. Then we'll look at malware and botnet. We'll look at digital signatures. Then we'll get into networking part of security. We'll look at internet security, then link layer and data layer, link layer and network layer security. Then look at something called Kerberos, VPNs. VPNs we use nowadays. Everyone uses VPN. It's kind of secure tunnel. Then we look at digital certificates. We look at NAT and firewalls. Then we look at transport layer security. And very important topic is web security, because most attacks are happening through web nowadays. So, and then Bitcoin and blockchains. So I may change the order depending on some things. All right, so this will take about 23 to 24 classes. Okay, so I will need at least 3 to 4 extra classes. All right, so last lecture we have looked at cryptography. So cryptography is basically, it is meant for allowing secure communication over insecure channels. Okay, suppose you want to send your password information to your friend on internet, and internet is a leaky mechanism, insecure, then how do you do it? So cryptography provides one such mechanism that your password remains confidential when it reaches the other end. Note that the word confidentiality, that's the only main thing it provides. No, I won't say only thing. Okay, and there are mechanisms for providing integrity and authentication, etc. Right? But confidentiality is one. I mean, when you encrypt something, and if there is a mallory in between, she cannot read what has been encrypted. Okay. Now we have looked at various mechanisms like Alice and Bob, or various characters that will come. Alice and Bob are the main people, main characters who are sending message to each other, and in between there are other interesting characters like Eve and Mallory. Eve is interested only in reading the messages, and she is not interested in modifying it. She's just curious what's happening. Why Mallory has intentions of modifying it also, right? So these are the main characters. Sometimes we'll also use a character called Trudy, which is very similar to Mallory. Okay. So in order to, okay, so basically what we want to achieve when we say security, then we want to achieve confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity. Confidentially means that somebody who is in between, like Eve, cannot read the message. Integrity is that wherein Mallory cannot modify the messages. Authenticity is basically proving that message has come from Alice or the sender. Okay. Then we also looked at concept of keys. Okay, and we know that keys are the most important things. Okay, of course, design of lock or encryption mechanism is also important, but according to Kirchhoff's law, encryption algorithm design or algorithm should be known to everyone, or is known to everyone. Okay, basically when you are putting a lock on a main door, then lock design is known to everyone, but key design, what key it fits into, doesn't. For example, how many levers lock has, and how it operates, all these things are published. Okay, but the actual key, the number of grooves or whatever patterns it has, that's not known. Or what size of those grooves are, etc. Those are not really known, right? So the key is most important. And the one attack that will focus while studying cryptography is chosen plain text attack. All right. Okay. So this was the definition. We looked at it. Note then, when we say symmetric key, it means that both Alice and Bob should have same key. Okay. All right. So Alice wants to send something to Bob. So she uses a key, okay, to encrypt the message. Then it becomes ciphertext and goes to other end. and then Bob uses the same key. Both keys are the same here. Okay, to decrypt the message and get the plain text which Alice has sent. So this plain text which Alice has sent must be same as the plain text the Bob has got after decryption. This ensures correctness of the algorithm. Okay. Other thing that's really important is the speed. Okay, or efficiency. If the encryption and decryption takes very long time, then this method is useless, right? Okay, because it should take just microseconds. Beyond this is not really acceptable. If it takes hours for encrypting and decrypting, then it's not acceptable. All right. Okay, so we have seen the correctness is important. We have also seen efficiency is important. Okay, and third thing that's important is confidentiality. Of course, this encryption algorithm should be capable of encrypting the message given one unique key. All right, so these three things are correctness, efficiency, and security are important. Then we looked at the IND CPS security. Okay, this is one way of checking if system is secure enough, right? So and we have looked at this model where Eve can trick Alice into encrypting some message of her choice. Okay, some plain text Eve sends to Alice and Alice sends an encrypted message back. All this information is available. Now Eve sends two messages, M0 and M1. Note that the word two messages, right? M0 and N1 and L. Okay, Alice picks up one of them randomly and encrypts and sends it back. Now the recipient, which is Eve, should not be able to know whether M0 and M1 is sent with probability greater than half. If that is so, then we say it's a IND CPS secure. This is indistinguishability security, right? And then based on that, we have studied one-time pad. Now this is kind of ideal one. Okay, that uses symmetric encryption scheme where Alice and Bob share the secret key. Okay, but note that the key is never reused here. In one time comes because of the one time we are using the key. Okay, and we have seen if you are using the key one time, then it's a IND CPS secure. So this is what we studied in the last class. Okay, now I have added one more chart, and please go through it in your free time and see what all these things are written here. Okay, but one thing you can note is that as time is progressing, okay, and this chart is only up to 2014. Okay, now we are almost like 8 years away from this. So as we progress, we can see that cost of attack is reducing. What does it mean? Same attack, if it was done in 1980s, the cost was very high, very, very high. Maybe let's assume it's $10,000. Now it would have become less than say $10 now. I'm just assuming, right? But so so now it's happening because of computing itself is becoming cheaper. We know Moore's law. Okay, so computing is cheaper and attack is also becoming cheaper, and technology is also improving. Okay, or hacking technology, I would say, is improving. All right, so the cost of attack is reducing. Now today you don't need to be expert to hack a system or make an attack. Okay, and you can simply hire these tools for doing it, right, in darknet. At the same time, you can outsource this job to somebody. Okay, so a lot of things are happening. But so now earlier attacks were very simple, like password guessing or password cracking. As time and connectivity was also not much. and internet came into play, and because of that, a lot of things started happening. Now you can see that there are a lot of advanced techniques are used, your denial of services are used, these kind of attacks are being done. Cross-site scripting, which we'll study in when we study web security, is a very popular method now of breaking web security, and so on. Right, today attacks are very complex and very well planned. Okay, all right, and it's like a full organization is sitting to break account of somebody. It's happening in war today, right? Between Russia and Ukraine. It's not just war on on earth, in the sense that it's not just through physical medium, but also happening in digital mediums, right? A large number of websites of both countries have been hacked. All right, we'll study those aspects sometime in later, right? Social aspects of all this. Okay, so today we'll study the following. We'll go quickly now because you have good understanding of topics. So we'll look at DES encryption, AES encryption. We'll see that IND CPS security of block ciphers, issue with block ciphers, and briefly, if time permits, we'll go to stream fibers. Okay, so this is what we have completed so far. One time pad, we are still in symmetric key encryption. And note that symmetry, when we say symmetric key at both ends, when Alice uses the key, say key 1, then Bob has to use the same keys or key 1 to decrypt. Okay, so we have studied this, but in one time pad, every time the key changes. Note that, right? But that's not a practical scenario. So now we'll study block ciphers. All right. Up. Just a minute. Up. It stopped working. Wow. Just give me a minute. Sometimes these machines, my finger is working as a Apple Pen. Maybe something gone wrong. Just a minute. Let me come out of okay. All right. Okay, let me play it again. Okay, all right. Started. Sorry. All right, so we are here. Okay, so block ciphers, we know this concept. Okay, that we have plain text at one end, and when we do symmetric key encryption, we get ciphertext. Note here, there plain text of size n bits, and output the encrypted text is also size n bits. Okay, and for this we use a key k of k bit size. Okay, now we say it block because it's a fixed size blocks of bits, right? Okay, when we encrypt message, then message is of fixed size, and that we define as n bits. This is called block, and output is also in terms of block. Okay, all right. So we can define encryption, symmetric encryption, which is of block using block ciphers. Encryption E using key k on message m, and as a result of that we get C, which is encrypted text, right? So C is here for ciphertext, and m is here, so you get this. Note that m and C both are of the same size. Okay, we can represent it in this way also. Just go through it if you are interested in knowing this. Okay, and decryption is just opposite. Okay, you get ciphertext of block size, which is n bits, and you apply the same key that you have used for encryption, and then you get plain text of size n bits. All right. So now it has to have three properties, which is correctness. Whatever plain text you have encrypted, you should get it back after decryption. Only then we can say it's correct. Efficiency, it means take polynomial time. It shouldn't take exponential time, right, to score, or in practical sense we'll say takes at most few microseconds. Okay. And security is that E behaves like a random permutation. Okay, when we okay, so basically we have plain text, and then we use a key to encrypt it using some encryption algorithm. Output should be a random permutation. Okay, of course this permutation is based on the key and also based on the text, but it is, if somebody is looking from outside, should not be able to make out anything out of this, right? So we can define this as follows, this property: EKM, which is encryption of message K using key K, must be a permutation with a bijective function on n bit string. Okay, I'm sure that you, through your graph theory knowledge, you understand what are bijective functions. So if these are the inputs, and then 0 0 here maps into 0 1, 1 0 1 maps into 0 0, and so on. It could be any 1 to 1 mapping. Okay, then we say it's a bijective function. Otherwise a non-bijective. Here you note that two inputs here, 1 0 and 1 1, are mapped onto 1 1 1. So this block ciphers provides bijective mapping, right, or bijective function. Because, so essentially what do you mean by that? Given a key K, one output, encrypted output, should not map to two inputs, okay, or two cyber plain text. So that's not allowed. Or in other words, each plain text, yeah, this is plain text, given a key K, should map on to only one type of encrypted text. Okay, so if we so if you have something different, so plain text, say we call it PT2, and given key K, it should map onto encrypted text or ciphertext of different type. This is a simple property, right? Please go through it. Okay. So now we can say that it's secure. It's a secure if we say that it's defined by a distinguishing game. Okay. So basically, a secure block cipher behaves like a random chosen permutation. Okay. All right. So this is of course definition, and distinguishing game is that if Eve gets two boxes, now Eve is somebody in between, right? And one is randomly chosen permutation. So this is randomly chosen, any permutation of whatever. And second is EK, okay, with key, using key K, this encryption is done. And of course, Eve will not know what is K. Okay, then she will, if she gets these two boxes, she can't make out what, which is a random permutation, which and other is coming from, some message being encrypted with key K. Okay. For example, same thing is explained here. This is one mapping or one box. This is another box. If you receives, say EK, another is random, she can't distinguish between the two. Okay, which is the one she wanted to find out. All right. Okay. So now this is all about block ciphers. Now if you're using 128-bit key, right, then this will be 2 raised to 128 possibilities, right? So a brute force attack will require almost like, and we have a computer with that, that's fast enough and that can crack 10 raised for 18 keys per second through brute force. It can, if it has got, for example, encrypted file and is now running using, generating keys one by one. So, so it will take, and it works at the following rate. It does 10 raised power 18 keys per second. So this will take, in order to break, it will take 30 trillion years. Okay. So this is impossible to break, right? So brute force method is impossible. Because of the key size here. And of course, probability biject, this property, right? Because it's a random permutation. Okay, all right. Okay, and then you can say that why use one computer? We can use multiple computers, right? Okay, and if, let's take another example where we take, instead of 128 to 56-bit keys. Okay, and we say that each computer requires 1 cubic millimeter. Now you can do parallel processing and put as many computers as you want and use brute force method of breaking this encryption mechanism. Okay, this will require 10 raised to 43 cubic meter of space, and where each computer of same working at same speed here. Okay, which is equivalent to 7 into 10 raised power 15 suns. All right, so brute force methods on modern block ciphers is not possible, assuming that key is random and secret. Okay, any question? Is it fast, or are you able to understand it? I'm asking this question. Who can answer me? Deep Gupta.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to understand?
Whatever you said till now, that was pretty clear.
Pardon?
No, yeah, this was understand whatever you were telling right now.
Okay, where is the problem? What you couldn't understand?
Means almost everything was clear, but this I think the last part, maybe I just missed or something. So it's a little ambiguous sort of.
This one, huh?
Yeah, miss this last slide only.
Oh, okay. So basically, what we say is that how much time it will require to break encryption, symmetric encryption, when it uses 128-bit key size, right? Now we know that it's a bijective function. It means that each key will produce different output. That's clear, right? And now, given one output, suppose Mallory wants to break this. Basically, she wants to get the plain text from encrypted text. Okay, or ciphertext. So she has some ciphertext. Now she will start applying keys one by one to this one. Okay, and get plain text. Because this encryption decryption algorithm is known. Say encryption, Kirchhoff law says that encryption and decryption algorithm is known. So now she puts this plain text, ciphertext into a decryptor and gets plain text. Okay, and now the key is correct, which was used, and she is done, but she doesn't know the key. Now key size is 128, so 2 raised power 128 is the number of combinations she has to try. First key, second key, up to 2 raised to 128. Okay, and then, so how much time she will take? We'll have to then think of what kind of computer it is, and we say that computer is fairly fast. So for example, a computer which can take 10 raised power 18 keys per second. If it computer can, she can try on computer to raise 10 raised power 18 keys in every second, then finding out the correct key will take 30 trillion years. If you do this calculation, you'll get approximately this number on a single computer. Now, somebody can ask, why use single computers? We can use hundreds or millions of computers. Now, we considering that same computer we are using when we are replicating, okay, which has speed of 10 raised to 18 keys, and keep on replicating. And we say that now we want to reduce time, right? So in order to break it in reasonable time, then it will require so many computers, which is like where the volume of these computers, if each computer takes 1 cubic millimeter, the volume will be almost like 10 raised to 15 sun moon, that's okay. So that's the size you need. So it means that even if you use fastest computer and all doing parallel work, even then you need, it's impossible. Okay, that's the message. It's simple, comes from this size of 2 raised power 256. These many combinations you have to try, and this is very big number. And whatever fastest computer you can use in and do parallel processing is still unbreakable. Okay. Now, what we talked about breaking time, but efficiencies should be there, right? When Alice is encrypting message using some key K, okay, it should take just microseconds, sorry. So it should be fast. Okay, now this algorithm, so basically what is it? This algorithm has to be such that it can be done in fast. It can be done in short time. Okay, so now let's now there are two algorithms that is in use, that was in use, and they were popular, AES and DES. So look at DES in brief. Okay, it was designed in 1970. It used block size of 64. Now we are still talking of block encryption, wherein message is of size 1 block. And if it's more than 1 block, then use multiple blocks, and so on. So we'll look at that problem in the next class. Okay. And then this block size, it means there's a plain text size. Okay. Okay, then this goes as an input to encryption engine, and then we will have to use a key. Then this key is of size 56, and then we get a ciphertext or encrypted text, right? All right. So now, of course, this is almost like 20 almost like 50 years old. Okay, technology, in which remain in existence for almost maybe 2 decades or something like that. Now all these things were working well because computer speeds were less, right? So breaking technology or key breaking technology was limited in capacity, right, or speed. Okay, so now the lot of questions were there, why 56 bits and so on, but turned out that it's not really very fast considering today's computers. Okay, because while encryption time may be less, but breaking time is also less. Okay, because key size is very small. The modern computer speeds make it completely unsafe due to small key size. Okay, now how does it work? Now we'll not get into this, but I have sent you a paper, you can go through the design of it. Okay, basically, given one text of one block size, which is 64 here, 64 bits, huh? So you have 64 bits. What all you can do? And you will do in such a way that you apply decryption algorithm, you should get the original text. So this is original text, M say, and you what you can do, you can shuffle these bits, you can rotate these bits, you can substitute these bits, right? Take few bits, for example, and substitute by some other set of bits. So all these methods are used. Okay. All right, so it has multiple phases of this shifting. Like, I mean, shifting means that, you know, right shift or left shift, then take few bits and just replace it by some other set of bits, and so on and so forth, right? And keep this churning. And there are almost like there are many rounds here. Okay, say 16 rounds, 16 rounds are shown here, and then some end phase, etc. And then you finally get 64-bit ciphertext. So if you want to really know what all this churning happens, what is this algorithm which, you know, takes a as an input plain text and output is version which you can't make out. Okay, until, and then it should be reversible also. All these methods should be reversible. Given you a, you know, ciphertext, apply this process in reverse, you should be able to get the plain text, and it should be done in short period. So now these methods are all known to everyone. Okay, all right. Okay, so please go through this. You know, something called initial permutation, then there are 16 rounds, and then and finally you get ciphertext. Okay, now second important encryption algorithm is called AES, Advanced Encryption Standard. Now this is in use. Okay, it's very similar to DES, but you know, this method of shifting you know, and then changing the bit patterns by substitution and so on is different. Okay, and this has come out as a result of a competition, you know, that was done by NIST. Okay, and it was open competition. All were allowed to propose algorithms, and then there are few algorithms which were came to the final round, and there is the fastest one was two fish. Okay, this was designed by Berkeley professor, right? We are using the slide set by the possibly same professor. Okay, David Wagner. You would find out if you go to Berkeley site, then you'll find, you know, contents created by him. And also we have used this prof slides, some of the slides in our earlier course on architecture. Okay, so he designed this, and there are other finalists from other people, right? Rindell was another one, and although Berkeley team claims that Rindell was never the fastest, but it was finally selected because its performance was good over all kinds of inputs. Okay, so Rindell algorithm was taken as a AES algorithm. Okay, so now the main point here is that key size is 128-bit. Okay, so initially 128-bit key size was proposed. Now it has a version also for 256-bit keys, right? So 128, initially 128, now 128, 256, both are available. However, the block size is 128 bits. Okay, block size is something that you take a plain text, size of that is 128 bits. So 128-bit block. Okay, you take this, and this is encryption algorithm, which is AES type. Okay, and then apply to this key, use a unique key which is of 128 bits, or it could be 256 bits, and output you get is encrypted text. Okay, all right. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. All right. Wow, this figure should have been small, but anyway. So this is how it is done. So we don't need to go into details, but you know, because it's a very descriptive, right? I mean, a lot of steps are there, you know, but basic thing is that you get you have plain text, at the end you get ciphertext. Okay, and then you have given a key. Based on the key, you do some, there are some known steps. Okay, but key is to be applied. It means that there has to be output is based on the key. So now you can do substitute bytes, you can do shift rows, you can mix columns, you can add round key, and many, you know, cycles of this. You know, like this is one cycle, and you do it a certain number of times. Okay, and then there is a final stage. And when you get from ciphertext, you do the same things in reverse order. Okay, so just one or two steps are shown here. For example, when we say substitute bytes, and note that we are using 128 bit block, right? It means a 16 bytes. Okay, so here we have 16 bytes. So this is one block. Okay, and then we can of course, you know, show this in terms of matrix. Okay, it doesn't matter, I mean, it could be linear or matrix for, okay, but here is shown in the form of a cube or matrix. Okay, and then you just substitute, you know, take one byte, let's taking A22, and then use some substitute function S and change this to B22, and do this for each byte. This is called substitution. Now what is this S? That we can find out, even details of that are available. Okay, and then second thing that we can do is also shift rows, left shift and right shift. You know, for example, here when we shift, you know, okay, sorry, so the first row is not shifted at all. Okay, 0th row we can call. First row is shifted by 1 byte towards left. Okay, so all right, so this is shifting. Okay, so this byte comes here, the byte which is A12 comes here, and so on. And here the second row is shifting by two positions, and third row is shifting by 3 positions. As a result of this shift, we get this one. There's no shift here, so it remains same. There's a shift of 1 byte, so it becomes A11, A12, A13, and then A10 comes here. Here is a shift of 2, and here is a shift of 3. So we do many such operations. What we have shown here is only 2, but we can also do, you know, mix columns, etc., right, which we are not discussing, but if you're interested, please find out from the book. Okay, so now with all this, doing all this and multiple times, note that we say that we do this multiple times, right? This what we have shown here is one, but there will be many such times we do. And okay, all right, just a minute. Wow. So there is no formal proof. How do you prove that this is correct or this is secure? This is, it's very difficult to prove. Nobody has proved it, but it works. And in many years, nobody is able to break it. In last 20 years. Okay. And then we can increase secrecy by using 256 bit keys. Okay, so AES is modern standard block cipher algorithm. Standard key size is 128, which is large enough to prevent brute force attacks. Okay, any question?
No, sir, it is clear.
Okay, so AES is just nothing but more advanced version of DES. Okay, it uses 128-bit key rather than smaller keys in case of DES, and also 256 keys. And now a lot of mixing, churning, etc., happens in this algorithm in a predictive way. Note that it's all predictive. It's the same thing is happening every time, right? Okay, so this method of mixing, churning, etc., is known to everyone and well defined, such that, and same is true for decryption algorithm. All right, and this routines, AES, DES are all available in public domain. Now let's look at IND CPA security of block ciphers. Do you think that it's IND CPA secure or not? What happened in case of IND CPA? Right, I mean, if two messages are sent, M0 and 1, and encryption is, and then one key is applied for encryption, and then encrypted message goes back to Eve, Eve should not be able to find out whether M0 or M1 was sent or encrypted. Okay, can you please mute yourselves if there's somebody? All right, so now let's look at this. Eve sends message M. First, she wants to trick and wants to get prior knowledge. Okay, she sends message M to Alice, and Alice encrypts it and sends back encrypted version of M to Eve. Now the Eve sends both M0 and M1, and Alice picks up one of these randomly and encrypts that one, which we call it MB, and then sends encrypted version of that here. Okay. All right, so this is how we did, right? Okay, and then Eve can try this again. Now, based on this, do you think is IND CPA secure? Okay. Okay, so now Eve sends two messages M0 and 1, this we have discussed, and she receives, Eve receives those two encrypted versions back. Now what happens that now Eve requests the encryption of M0 again. If she sends M0 again and gets encryption of M0, and she does it multiple times, okay, then she has a prior knowledge that yes, the encrypted message looks the same. Okay, so this way we can say that Eve can win the game with probability 1, and this is not IND CPA secure. Now, why is this?
Use the same key.
Yes, absolutely good, very good, because the same key is being used. Okay, all right, but we cannot change the key. Note that in block, key is to be used for a certain period of time. So the problem is block cipher is that block ciphers are not IND CPA secure because they are deterministic. Note the word deterministic. Okay. Scheme is deterministic if the same input always produces the same output. Note in the case of one-time pad, the key change every time, and that gave that made the method IND CPA secure, because every time given the same input, when Eve sends the same input for encryption to Alice changes the key and sends it back. Okay, and every time the message is different. Okay, all right. So if the key is to be reused, then there's a problem. And the whole algorithm is deterministic, right? AES and DS are all deterministic algorithm. All right. Now, other problem with block cipher is that it can only encrypt message of fixed sizes, like 128-bit in case of AES and 64 in case of DES. Okay. What happens if you want to encrypt more than 128 bits? Okay, that we'll see in the next class. What can we do? Okay, to summarize, of course, that we have studied. Okay, please go through it. There's nothing much. Just in next 2 minutes, I will cover stream ciphers. What we have seen is so far is block ciphers. You have text message available of certain size, say 64 bits, and output is of the same size. Now, what happens that you get stream of bits? For example, when you have like we are talking right now, right? And then our communication is happening over channel, and there's a streams are coming in continuously from the mic. So when there is a stream of data, we cannot use block ciphers. We don't have time to accumulate 64 bits and do encryption and so on. So we have to have a stream ciphers. Okay. So symmetric type, we have studied block ciphers. Other type is stream ciphers. We'll just look at for a minute, right? So we have stream of bits here, x0, x1, x, and so on, and then we get output here based on the key. So stream ciphers encrypt each bit individually, and usually fast, small and fast. Like common in embedded device, like mobile device, mostly we use device uses A5/A encryption algorithm for encryption. Okay. All right. Okay, and same thing we can apply here. This encryption, we can do decryption, and we get the original message back. The question is that what can be, suppose input bit is 0, by encryption we can convert this into what? It could be 0 or 1. Okay, and this is based on the key. Okay, now suppose the key bit is 0 corresponding to this input, then of course we can decide 0 and 1 based on the algorithm. Okay, all right. So we'll not go into details of stream ciphers. If you're interested, please read through this book. All right. So to summarize, we have studied 2 types of encryption algorithm. Symmetric. We have studied symmetric encryption methodology. We have spent time on block ciphers. Just briefly looked at stream ciphers. And now we have seen the problem with the block ciphers is that blocks, we have to use message in terms of blocks. If message is more than block, then what is to be done? There's a question. Second thing is that what is the efficiency? Can we parallelize it? Is the algorithm absolutely sequential? Some of these aspects we will see in the next class. Okay, all right. Any question? All right, thank you then.